Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Alex Cook, and I'm going to make a video about using social media for networking. And specifically, I'm going to talk about LinkedIn. You know, there's a lot of things about social media that talk about mostly how it can be geared toward your social life, using things like Instagram or Snapchat, but not necessarily as discussed how much to use it on the business end. And I want to talk about that because the skill sets are really almost identical. So what I'm going to go over in this video is why network is important, and then I'm going to go over what I call the active game, which is reaching out to people, and I'm going to also talk about my specific cold approach that I use, and then I'm going to talk about what I call the passive game. And I'd say really that's half the reason why I made this video in the first place, the passive game. So first of all, if you're not networking, you're wrong. You know, a lot of people only start thinking about this when they're either out of a job or it becomes really clear that they're in a dead end and they need to start looking. You know, you want really to build that foundation before you need it. You know, I took a pretty big directional change in my career. You know, if you follow some of my other writing, what I've written on Wall Street Oasis or other places. But had I not made that move, I probably would have left my civilian job anyway. Not that there was necessarily anything wrong with the company. You know, they treated me well. It wasn't really the right fit as far as advancement, and you know that's fine. I have nothing bad to say about it. I'm just just looking kind of more for that next step. Well, anyways, I had people actually reach out to me and bring me options. That's the kind of position that you want to be in. And I told them at the time, no, and I'm actually looking to pursue another direction entirely. But the point being is you want to build that sort of foundation before you need it. So I'm going to talk about the active game, and the active game is actually going out and cold messaging people or going to things face to face. But how I actually cold message people is it would be something on the lines of first searching for who I want to reach out to. You know, I'm not taking a shotgun approach reaching out to just any random person. Like say I want to get a job in equity research, you need to be reaching out to equity research analysts and or lower level associates. I would send something on the lines of, hi, my name is Alex Cook. I saw that we had this sort of commonality, and you know, try to find something. If you can't, that's fine too. I'm interested in working in this field. You know, let them know that up front. I'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm interested in working in this field and like to learn a bit more about what you do. I'm not sure how I might be able to provide value to you yet. But I'd like to at least reach out and make the connection. I was wondering if you'd be free for coffee or something after work. All right, so this does a few things. One, you're letting them know up front that you're looking for that type of work. So let people know that up front. Like when I was in financial sales, never say something like, I just want to hand out information. You know, that completely devalues what you're trying to do. It's also weird because you're not even really being honest. You know, you're looking to raise assets. Like, you know, let them know up front because, you know, it's just tacky to devalue what you're saying, and it gets people actually more nervous. You know, you're trying to not say, I'm not. You're not trying to say I'm looking for a job because you think that if you tell people you're looking for a job that it's going to get them on the defense. But really, it disarms them when you're just upfront with what you're doing, because they can tell you up front, "Hey, you know, sorry, we're not hiring," and okay, fine, roger that, and just move on. Or they might say, "All right, well, you know, I'd still be happy to meet up with you, pass along some information," or I might know another guy. When you're being really vague about it, people don't know what you want, and that's actually what makes people defensive. Or same thing as like financial sales. You know, who calls people up just handing out information? Yeah, it's weird. You know, let people know up front what you're trying to do. That actually makes people more comfortable when you're just fully honest and upfront. You will get no more, but honestly, you're going to get no eventually if you're just beating around the bush. So you might as well just get it up front. So then try to meet up with them and then be sincere about trying to add value back to them. That's why I said then I may not be sure how to add value yet, but maybe down the road, send them an article that you think might be interesting to what they're trying to do. If there's a social function that you're help running in town, I know ideally you want to be in a positions where you can organize functions, be in a position of value where you truly can give back. Maybe you're part of some sort of civic organization. Invite them out to your events. Tell them to bring their company members out of to your events too. That's a really great way to show that you have connections, and also introduce them to your connections so you can be at sort of that center of influence. All right, that's the active game. Again, it's about building genuine connections. You want to be upfront and honest about what you're doing. LinkedIn is a great way to reach out to people to do that. So now I'm going to talk about the passive game. So I read a book by a career counselor when I was going to University of North Carolina. It was called Courting Your Career, and he compared looking for a career to dating. And I think that makes actually a lot of sense because really a lot of the skills are very similar from just any sort of social interaction to building social interactions for business purposes as well. So let me give you an analogy of you're at a bar or a club and you're getting someone's number. Well, honestly, a big reason why you might not be getting called back or texted back is not because they're not necessarily not interested, they just don't really know you yet. So it's a little weird. But one way you can make it less weird is send them a quick ad on Snapchat. If you have their number, you have their Snapchat anyways. What does that do is it just gives them a bit more exposure to you. It helps build that comfort and familiarity. Or on the other hand too, if you truly are a weirdo who's living in some weird dungeon, lets her know that too, so she can get out of here and just move on. So it helps disarm people and helps just let them know what you're really all about, and hopefully through that you're conveying some value. All right, so I want to relate to how this gets to business. So you're at a networking event, you can add someone on LinkedIn, and then now they can see all the stuff that you're posting, because you should be posting some valuable content and maybe things relevant to your industry. They can see what your profile is, learn a bit more about you, and help solidify that connection. It builds comfort, it builds familiarity. And when I see people not on LinkedIn, honestly, it's kind of weird. Look, I get that some people don't want their whole personal life out there, and that's fine. Make your Facebook private, make your Instagram private, whatever. Don't even have an Instagram. I don't care. But for business purposes, if you don't have a LinkedIn or you're not using it, nowadays, honestly, it's just a little weird. And look, I don't make up the rules. I wasn't the one who decided it's weird or not. I'm just telling you how it is. I'm not talking about what the world should be or what would make the world a better place. I'm just talking about empirically how the world actually works. If you don't have a LinkedIn, you're really just shooting yourself in the foot. And you want to make your LinkedIn as public as possible. Like I said, people actually reached out to me and bringing me things. If I wasn't available in some way on social media or just other ways people could reach out to me, that never would have happened. Look, if you don't want your personal life out there, don't put it out there. Don't put your weird party pictures from college on there. All right, that shouldn't be on your LinkedIn anyways, but you want people to know what it is you're doing and how you can add value. So the passive game is once people are on your social media, they can just learn a bit more about what you're all about. And then from that, now it goes from being a cold message to more of a warm message. I'm going to give you a few case studies where this has been done well, where it's been done poorly, and also an example of my own. So let me give you a case study of where it's been done poorly. So I used to live in Portland, and there was a politician in the state of Oregon who was running for office. And he did poorly, although I think that he had an interesting platform. He just wasn't really successful. And I think part of that is he never really built a following. So his opposition candidate in the primary was very well funded by the party's sort of, I guess you could say, elites, and he wasn't. Nowadays, though, that's not as much of an issue if you could still build a following. We've seen examples in recent years of candidates disrupting traditional party models just by building an online following. Well, here's the thing he was doing. You go on his Facebook, because look, if you're running for office, you don't have a Facebook. That's just weird. That's almost unfathomable nowadays. But he was posting things that just weren't relevant. He'd be talking about things like cars or technology or restaurants, and not even in the sense of how he's going to make this better. You go on like a politician's Facebook because you want to hear about their policy. You want to hear about what they can do, why they should earn your votes. Instead, he's just kind of rambling on about his life story. This isn't going to get people interested. So again, you're talking about just general social skills. I have some friends who actually work for a very successful dating advice company. And they talk about something called FRED, which is focus, relevance, emotion, and decision. And he's really given none of that. It's not focused at all. Who is even his target audience? Car people, technology people? People are going on there because they want to see what type of political policies, should you vote for him, that he's going to support. He's not even talking about that. Relevance, again, none. Emotion, none. I just think it's weird. And so my decision is going to be I might vote for the other guy because he's at least telling me what he stands for. So look, when you hear about things like, be true to yourself, okay, that may be a true statement, but you still need to be calibrated. It doesn't mean you just blabber on about whatever. So that type of thing, that may be useful for your personal Facebook or your personal Instagram. But say you have a Facebook or Instagram or what I'm talking about here, LinkedIn, for business purposes, you need to keep in mind what are the type of people that you're reaching out to, and is the stuff that you're posting relevant and calibrated for them. So let me give you a more successful case study. There's an internet comedian, Vitaly, and he has a YouTube channel where he does some pretty edgy, eccentric pranks. But he also has another YouTube channel, which is more just kind of like his day-to-day life story, things he's doing, just because people find him interesting. He's a pretty wild guy, a pretty creative guy, so they just kind of want to learn a bit more about him. That's his second YouTube channel that he has. So if you want to do that, have that bifurcation. And Gary Vaynerchuk also does that as well, which he has his advice YouTube, but then he has his Daily V, which is more his day-to-day thing. So especially when you're starting out, have a measure of focus to the type of content that you're putting out there, whether it's YouTube, LinkedIn, or what have you. So that would be a more successful version. And now let me give you a personal example as well. So I was in Dallas, and me and my friends, we were out, and I was just casually talking to someone next to us, and it turns out he worked in my old line of work, finance, and just from a quick conversation, we added each other on LinkedIn, but from that, now we're actually talking about maybe organizing a networking event in Dallas for people working in finance. Now, this probably honestly wouldn't have happened if we just exchanged business cards or just exchanged numbers, because from a short interaction, it would be a bit much for me to just text him out of the blue like, hey, want to do a networking event? But once we've been sort of following each other's content for a while, now it's developed that familiarity. So what the passive game of using social media to, what you can do is you can turn those mild acquaintances into more solid acquaintances and then really into relationships just by slow dripping, adding value, letting you follow each other's content, and then building a relationship from there. So it can take a brief encounter and make it more meaningful. It's only going to happen though if you're optimizing your LinkedIn, and well, one, you have a LinkedIn, and then two, you're using it to put out things that are interesting and relevant to what you're trying to do. So hopefully you learned a few things about networking, why it's important, the active game and the passive game. So if you found this interesting, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to be coming out with some more content, and on this channel, this is not going to be some just esoteric theory. This is not going to be feel good about yourself, rights, I'm going to be successful a million times type stuff. This is going to be very practical, very applicable things that you can do to improve your career, to improve your finance. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching.